Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kenny Conversation, brought to you by JEGS, the leader in high-performance aftermarket car parts. And remember to go to jegs.com for everything and anything you need for your vehicles. Well, it's another big day because we are going dirt racing. And as you all know, dirt racing is in my blood. I've been doing it for a long time now, and we have a dear friend of mine on, one of the hottest dirt racers in the world right now, Jonathan Davenport. Jonathan, welcome to Kenny Conversation.
Thanks for having me on. Definitely.
Yeah, well, hey, listen, let's loosen up, my friend, and I'm going to introduce you to this asphalt crowd, and we're hoping that all our dirt friends will come in and listen to this conversation. But let me say this. You're so interesting from my viewpoint because your name is Jonathan Davenport, but I guess it's a long name because people love to call you JD. I guess if they call you JD, that means they're tight with you, but yet you're Superman. What do you think of having three names? Do you answer to anyone?
I'll answer it about all of them. I guess people call me JD are just lazy. They don't want to call me Jonathan. I don't like John. I don't like Johnny. I don't like none of that. So when people call me that, I usually have to correct them. But I can stand JD.
Where did that? When did Superman? When did that name start? Can you remember one moment in time? When did Superman start?
I don't remember exactly. My graphics guy back in the day, Helton Graphics, he used to have like a Superman emblem in his graphics logo. So it was on my car, and I remember back at my home track at Tri-County in Brasstown, North Carolina, they had a race there, and if you started on the front row, they would give you an option for $10,000 bonus to start in the rear if you won the race. So we did that one night and come up through the field and got to second, had a flat, come back up and got spun out running like fourth and come all the way back up and was passing for the lead. And me and the leader hit and it broke a suspension part. So I think that's about the time that it started, but I'm not really sure.
So you said Tri-County. Is that the asphalt track?
No, that's the dirt track in Brasstown, North Carolina. It's called Tri-County Racetrack instead of Tri-County Speedway. Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense. We got a lot of racetracks throughout America, like Tri-City Speedway here in Granite City. Then there's other Tri-Cities, Tri-Counties. Well, I want to go forward just for a minute, and then I want to back up. So you are, in my opinion, the hottest thing in dirt racing. Over the last 5 years or so, you've won more big races than anybody. Brandon Overton started to challenge you there at Eldora, but then you peeled out on him. I guess his chassis must have flexed a little bit, and he lost that car. But we know Brandon's good at Eldora. But man, you have just killed everybody at the big money races. So you're 39 years old, and last year you won $2 million. Tony Stewart and everybody at Eldora had the million, they called it, and you won the damn race. You won $1 million in one race. You've done it all. As you look back over this last year and a quarter, when you drive around in your truck or your car by yourself, what are you thinking when you're just by yourself after what's been going on?
I just really can't believe what all me and my team has accomplished in the last.
Me too. It's awesome.
I mean, it's crazy just to think about, and just to do it over and over again, week in and week out. We really concentrate on the big races. Anytime I want to say not a smaller race, but we can race for 10, 15,000 every weekend, but we're constantly trying new things, testing for this June through late August run up to September, when all the big money races show up. Like we've got a stint where almost every weekend we're running for almost $50,000. So we really concentrate on these 3 months. And, it was mid to late April last year before we won our first race. But we was just constantly testing things and just trying to figure out what we needed to do for later in the year. So it normally takes us a little while to get warmed up, but once we get rolling, we generally keep it going. But just riding around in the truck, just I feel like I've came a long ways as a person and just what I've done in my career. So it's definitely cool to see what I've accomplished. To when I really started dirt racing back from myself, I had to do it on my own. I went and met some people and slept on their couch, and I've moved 15 different times wherever my race car was. I would normally move there and work on it all the time, and didn't matter what town or what state it was in. And now I've established myself enough that I can. I've got one of the best crews now, so I don't have to be there day in, day out working on my stuff, and I can enjoy life just a little bit now.
And you are enjoying life. We see your ranch down there, and of course you got a bull named Eldora, I believe. But hey, look, I like something that you talked about there. You talked about running big money races. Now we know the dirt racing world. A lot of people were shocked that a handful of great dirt racers like yourself said, "Hey, listen, we're going to get off the grind. We're going to get off this $5,000-$10,000 deal. We're not going to follow Lucas Oil. We're not going to follow World of Outlaws. We're going for the big money races." And I remember when you kind of let your fans know that you were going to do that. Lance Landers is your car owner. Mark Martin and him are dear friends out of Batesville, Arkansas. What made you all, now, first of all, I think it's a wonderful decision. It's better than being a vagabond during the middle of the summer and just banging your head against the wall. What was that decision like when you guys said, "Hey, look, we're going to quit running 100 races a year. We're going to run the big races"? How did that conversation come about and the decision?
Well, it was just the way the schedule was laid out last year. There was a whole lot more big races than they had been. Every year it seems like they get more and more. Just the schedule was laid out a little different. I felt like how it was laid out last year, we was going to beat our stuff into the ground before we ever got to the big races. And during the week, when you follow a series, like, you have to go somewhere, no matter what the weather conditions are or whatever. So it's places you have to go when you run a series that you may not want to go, or you're liable to get your stuff tore up, or and not running a series, you can save certain cars for certain races. But when you run a series, I mean, you're gone for a month and a half, 2 months at a time. So you gotta take your best equipment with you all the time, because you never know what's going to happen. But we decided to do that last year, and it really worked out for us. But all the series really stepped up in 2023 and paying more show up money and having more big events, and their points fund is just astronomical. It's awesome what they've done for the racers. So we jumped back on board this year and running for the Lucas Oil Series Championship. And a big part of that was they're having the Dirt Track World Championship, which is their last race at Eldora. And it's a chase format, kind of like the NASCAR series is doing now. So we knock out the top 16, then top 8, then top 4. So once we get to Eldora, as long as we're in the top 4 in points, everything's a scratch, and it's whoever finishes ahead the rest of them.
So I follow you on social media, and I don't know if it was on Snapchat, but you had a car in your race shop, and there was a little bit of dust on it, and you put your finger and you said it's about ready to bring this baby back out. So do you have that one car that flexes right, does everything you want for Eldora? Is that the car?
It is, yeah. We built that car brand new in about the start of 2021, and I went and I ran it at Magnolia and won both races there with it. And then I went to another place in Iowa at 300 Raceway, another kind of circle racetrack where you have to steer really well. And we won that. Yeah, big momentum track. I'm like, that's my car. I want to take to Eldora. So we took it to both the Dreams in 21, both the Worlds. Ever since 21, I've ran that car at Eldora, and it's been really well. We won 2 Worlds with it, a Dream, and a Million with it so far, and been in contention in about all the other ones. So that's it's got the same motor in it. We normally put new parts on it every time we go, but that's my baby. That's Eldora. It sits in the shop until either June or September rolls around.
Jonathan, we're gonna do you a favor right here. Jonathan Davenport, since 2015 at Eldora. 2015, you swept it all. You won the Dream. You won the World 100. 2017, you won the World 100. 2019, you won the World 100. Then the virus came in 2020, you won the Intercontinental Classic. 2021, you win the World 100. Then the Mac Daddy. 2022, you won the Eldora Million, 1 million. 2022, you won the World 100. And you just won the Dream. My friend, I would save a car for Eldora too, but I think it's a fair assessment. When you look at racers, there's a timing and circumstances. Bill Elliott always said that. He'd say, Herman, life's all about timing and circumstances. And, if you win the Daytona 500, it makes your year, makes your career. Is it a fair statement? Now, Jonathan, we know you're good everywhere. I'm not trying to back you in a corner right now. We know you're good everywhere and you win everywhere. But is it a fair assessment to say that Eldora has solidified major career, financially, everything?
Absolutely, 100%. It's a place that I like and I understand, and I focus all year on Eldora, really.
Very cool.
It doesn't matter where I'm at. I'm always thinking about if I make this change or whatever it feels like. I'm like, oh, I could use that at Eldora, or
I love that.
What engine I want to take, or what kind of restrictor plate package, or whatever I do. I've always got Eldora back in my mind because in my eyes, it just means more there.
It does.
We get the most fans there.
It does.
TV coverage. So, that there's a lot of other great racetracks out there, but I know if you're at Eldora and you've got the best car, no matter where you're going to start, you're going to finish up front unless something happens.
My brother Rusty taught me a lot. And every time everybody'd go to Bristol for the Cup race, they'd take their junkiest cars because they said, oh, we're going to wreck. Rusty says, no, I'm taking my very best car to Bristol because I'm going to kick their ass. And I know I'm good there. I can win. So I agree with, the way you look at Eldora. You're good there and take your baby. And Earnhardt would say, I remember Dale Sr. That's right. That's right, baby. Hey, listen, we all learn from our heroes. And Dale Sr. kept starting in the back of the pack at the Bud Shootout one year. And I, friends with Senior. And I said, man, you kicked her butt. And Senior looked at me and told me something I'll never forget. He goes, Herman, you ride a horse until it breaks its foot. And he said, that car hauled ass. And so you're doing it right, Jonathan. I agree with what you're doing. You put it all in there, and that's your wheelhouse, even though you win everywhere. All right. So let's, on Kenny Conversation, we're going to throw an audible, and you interrupt me because, the Herminator shared my notes with you. Am I reading this right? Are you an asphalt racer first?
Well, I was a dirt racer as far as go-karts, but then soon as I got old enough, I drove the first couple cars when I was 10, 11, 12, and then I went to asphalt in legend cars and ran them for several years, and then ran asphalt late models until my dad's pocketbook pretty much ran out, and then we had to come back home and start back dirt racing.
Yeah, so your dad is JL.
Yeah.
I always say everybody needs somebody, and you can't stand on a mountain by yourself. So after I checked you out, you ran the 2004 NASCAR Busch East. You ran ARCA in 2006. Is this right?
I never ran an ARCA race. No, I ran some ASL, which was the year that it switched from ASA, and we ran a half a year. And I think the promoter or something happened to him, I believe, right after he bought it from Steve Dale, and we ran a half a year, and the series went under.
Darn it! I wished. Well, I'm glad you're where you're at in life right now, but ASA was definitely the most it was the everything. And that's where, the best came from: Rusty, Mark Martin, Dick Trickle, Alan Quickie. But so that's pretty cool. So about what age did you quit asphalt racing and decide I'm going to go dirt?
It was probably right around 18, 19 years old, right around 20. I remember I moved to Atlanta my senior year in high school to go down there to work on my asphalt car. And I mean, that was the direction I wanted to go. I didn't like dirt cars. I had
Dirty.
Yeah, I had all my friends up around the house. They'd go to dirt races, go to East Bay, things like that. I'm like, I don't want to go mess with them dirt cars. I want to go cup racing one day. So that was the direction that I was going. I raced legend cars with David Reagan, Reed Sorensen, several other guys. Kyle Busch, me and him's talked about racing each other out in Vegas before. But
wow.
That was the direction I wanted to go and where I thought I was headed. But at that times where it was really starting to turn over and you had to have a big checkbook to get there. And we just never did get that big break. And so my grandpa had a couple of dirt cars, and he had two and had one driver. So when I decided to come back, he said I could drive one of his for a little bit. And that's where it all started back on dirt.
That's awesome. And I want to pause for a minute because, we've always had, and rightfully so, we've always had dirt fans hate on NASCAR. And it really was because NASCAR raised the prices. They demanded that instead of buying one ticket to Sunday, you had to buy Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And the fans felt like, NASCAR abandoned all the dirt people. So I think we're bridging that gap back now with the help of, Kyle Larson and yourself. So recently you ran the NASCAR Cup race, the NASCAR truck race at Bristol. I've already asked you this question when you came on NASCAR Race Day, our big show at Bristol, but I want to ask it to you in front of this audience. Is NASCAR, was it always a dream of yours? Do you have desire? Did you want to be NASCAR?
Absolutely. I mean, especially back then, I thought if you was going to make a living racing, that's where you wanted to be. It's where you had to be. And that's where I wanted to be, but it just didn't work out. But, 25 years later, after I changed directions, I ended up back there for a special event at Dirt on Bristol. So it was pretty cool. It come full circle.
Yeah, and you did good. You ran really good, both cars. And there's so much more I want to get to. So now let's veer a Kenny conversation. Totally dirt racing, hardcore dirt racing. I'm a dirt racer. So we're going to go into all the dirt racing lingo. Let's relax and kind of let's go at it. So I want to talk about Kevin Rumley in the 6 car. And sometimes I'm a smart ass to get my point across.
I can handle it.
Right. So all this, right front down, left rear up. You and Kevin started that. So now everybody else, they just following you. In my opinion, now interrupt me. In my opinion, you were the first one to feel in that chassis, right front down, left rear up, with what was called the device. Now we know that the device raised the left rear up, right front's down, and you created all this side force. Those cars you're running, the dirt super late models, I always tease that they're 4x8 sheet of plywoods. and you and Kevin were the first one to catch on to this big time aerodynamics. Did I say that right?
We was trending that way a little bit, but I think we just made a major step. And something Kevin dreamed up, over several weeks or months or whatever. And it took him like many times to get it even close to going on the car. We were supposed to go test to start a 2015 season 5 or 6 times. We never made it because Kevin never could get this thing to go on the car like he wanted to. We actually started
This is great, like a mad scientist.
Oh, it was crazy. There was bolts and nuts and spacers. It looked like a trash dump around our car. Crazy. It was all evolved around the left rear. We had this whole thing done for a week or two, except for the left rear. And he tried many different ways to do it. And finally, he got it where he wanted it. And then I was always like the cleanup guy. Like Kevin could come up with the big ideas, but the small stuff, like it would bottom out, or the bolt needed to be shorter, or it would bind up or do something. So I had to come in and kind of help him clean up everything, shorten the bolts up, get all the stuff right. And so we finally got to leave like the day before we were supposed to go to Brunswick. And it all started in the left rear, actually on the axle tube. And then as he advanced it and figured out what he was doing, we moved it to the frame.
Isn't that fantastic? You know, we all know Kevin's weird. Even Jacqueline, his wife's, you know, he's in his own world. But isn't it true, you know, people like Thomas, you know, Graham Bell, you know, Alexander Graham Bell, you know, these brilliant people they're not in our world. Was he difficult to work with because he's so different?
He can be, for sure, just because he can speak on a totally different level than I can, and his brain works different than ours, and that's the reason he is so smart. But you know, we figured out how to communicate with one another. You know, I'm pretty just
country,
just like level, like you know, I don't. So yeah, we figured out how to communicate, and I'd have to bring him down a notch or two where I could understand what he was talking about. And then I was trying to be smarter and where he could understand what I was talking about. But after, you know, a couple of years together there, we got it figured out. We knew what each other was talking about.
Man, you guys just won everything there was. And then, you know, we watched it all end. All good things come to an end. But following back up on that a little bit more, the device, did the device, it pushed that left rear up. Is that right?
Yes and no. I don't, it's still like mind boggling because I still don't know what it exactly does. And I'm not sure that Kevin does, but it was almost two left rear suspensions in one. So we normally have the 4-link suspension that we have now, but it was also it was pretty much the 4-link bolted on this suspension. So it was two dampening devices in one. So we would get droop one way and then we would get droop from another way. So there was never anything solid on the left rear. So it was always in motion.
Yeah. I went to that shop and I was pretty shocked, just kind of like a old, you know, army building. And at the time I showed up, he had the 6-car pushed out underneath a shed, but he had that device and he showed it to me. And I thought, I'll be damned. There it is. That thing needs going to Smithsonian Institute.
It's awesome.
Now, would you say, I think what I'm trying to get out of you, did the device change the direction, the trajectory of super late model dirt racing?
I think so. I think it really did. Even though like it opened our eyes to so many different things that we needed to do. So once we figured out what that did, it essentially just got the spoiler up in the air further. So then once we figured that out, so then we could get the right front down. So we started traveling more in the right front. And we figured out as soon as we could get the deck up higher, get the spoiler up in the air, we would go faster. So then after they eliminated, you know, anything moving on the frame or the bird cage, so then we started working with shocks and springs and other things to be able to squat the car in the left rear and raise it up on the right front to get through tech. And then they almost looked like a tree fell across them, broke in half because we could run the deck up so high there for the first year or so once we figured it out. But yeah, it definitely put the sport in that trajectory for sure.
Yeah, I feel like, now this is me saying this, I'm bragging on you, this is a compliment. I feel like you, along with Kevin, you changed dirt super late model racing forever. And then you with Lance shocked the racing world with how much money can be won if you get it together and run like you have at Eldora. So there's no doubt in my mind you're going to be etched in history, because when I see these dirt late models now, I know what you just confirmed. And I hope all the dirt late model guys are listening, even the kids. It was you and Rumley that made us all very aware how important aerodynamics are. And I just think that's awesome. So, all right, we got about 7 pieces here. And I want one thing I want to go into that I think is awesome. So my brother Rusty and Larry Phillips and Mark Martin, we raced in Pocola, Oklahoma, Fort Smith, Arkansas. We raced there every Saturday night. And met a guy named Dethridge. Well, he had a kid named Greg. And but Greg Dethridge and you got together. Now, these are 200s, and I need them to read or else I start hurting. Now, you shocked the racing world. Everybody stayed quiet for a little bit. And then when you look at like somebody like a Donnie Schatz has won it all forever with glasses. You and Greg Dethridge got together, is this right? And you started wearing glasses. And I know you were winning before, but now you're winning more. Tell me about these glasses, because it also played into Superman. You kind of look like Clark Kent now.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, you know, I kind of remember back when I was younger and I was racing legend cars. My vision wasn't that great, and I started wearing glasses and contacts, and instantly like got better. And then I was having problems with the glasses fogging up and my contacts falling out, getting air in them, and so I went and had LASIK.
So you've always wore contacts?
Well, I started out, that was probably when I was 14, 15. And then when I turned 17, I had LASIK surgery done.
Oh.
And it was like a completely different world then. I didn't have to worry about my glasses fogging up and when I was racing. So like I instantly started winning a lot more back then. And so over time, that was 20 years ago, you know, now. So
Well, did you feel like you started winning because you could see better?
Absolutely.
I'll be damned. Breaking news.
Absolutely. And just after a while, you know, your eyesight gets worse. And I noticed at night, even just driving down the highway, I'd see huge halos around lights, glare really, really bad. And so I just went to the eye doctor, and like I can still see 20/20 fine. But when I put the glasses on, and the ones that Greg got me, they're a low glare that helps with that. Everything's just HD. Like before, I could see a wrench on the racetrack. Now I can tell you if it's a 3/4 or 11/16. You know, so not that good. But I'm just saying,
I get it.
I could just see stuff on the track, how it changes so much more. You go to different places all across the country, and the dirt's a different color. Well, if you race in the South all the time, you know that it starts out red, and it goes to light red, then it goes black, then the rubber goes back to red. Well, in the Midwest, it don't really do that. It's black when you start. And so it's hard to see the traction spots and when it gets slick and when the rubber starts coming back again. So it just, the better you can see, you know, the better you are.
So this makes me laugh, because when I started dirt racing, I told Kenny Schrader, I said, Kenny, I want you to teach me how to race dirt. Now, mind you, my dad, my brother Mike, Rusty, they're all really good on dirt. But I just never did it. I got kind of lucky being the third kid because I went straight to asphalt. But I asked Schrader one time, I said, how do you know when to slow up on dirt? He said, when you get on the track, lift your visor up and look at the dirt. So in a comical way, you know, I'm nothing like you, but I've won 108 dirt races in modifieds, and it is so true, right? I mean, you got to study that dirt while you're racing. You're like half farmer.
Yeah, no doubt. Like after I go back and watch the video, and you can see the line so easily, or if you're up in the grandstands, you can see the line so easily. But when you're out there right next to it, like it changes and you don't even know it at some aspect. But like I said, just the better you can see, the better you're going to be. The better you can see the lane change before the next guy. If you can, get 2 or 3 spots somewhere just because they hadn't seen the lane change yet, well then, that's 2 or 3 spots you're ahead.
Do you think? Okay, so we know that you just got done winning Eldora, and you started 6th. You passed everybody. You got to the rubber before them. Two-part question. Do you think people like you, Michael McDowell, or not Dale McDowell, excuse me, do you feel like you Southerners, when you grow up on the red clay, and Brandon Overton said this when he won, he said, we race in the rubber down south. Do you feel like you're pretty good at, you got to the rubber quick on Saturday night after you passed Pierce? Do you think you got something going on there? You think you're good at getting the rubber quick?
I think I'm good at seeing it and knowing when it's possibly coming. There's nobody never knows exactly when it's going to come, but you just start seeing the change of the dirt. It changes colors, and when you go across it, you can feel it in your ass. You can kind of, feel how much grip you got versus the rest of the racetrack. So, and just once you get in the rubber and it does rubber, it's almost a little bit like asphalt racing. To conserve your tires, you got to work on the right front some, to work on the right rear. You don't want to burn your stuff up. So you have to manage your tires going back and forth. But these cars ain't really made just to turn left all the time. So it's just many laps down here and some shitty racetracks in the South that does rubber up.
Bad soil down there. We know that. But okay, so I want to move on to running through the middle of the racetrack. So this is what I call dirt racing talk. When we're in the pits, we got all the lingo and we know what it means. But we all know that big features, A-mains, we call them, they're won in the dry. We know that. When I look at your history, I see that, Jonathan, you're not old, you're 39, but I notice you don't ever knock the quarter panel off, but you run high. But I notice you go fast still through the middle of the racetrack. When Pierce or, Shepard, I can't blame it on them because they grew up in these bull rings, and sometimes that's a fast way. So they grew up here, you grew up down there. This technique that you have, you still keep an enormous amount of speed running through the middle of the racetrack. Is that a Southern thing? Tell me about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, our dirt's not very good. It doesn't compact together. We may build a cushion down here every now and then, but not very often at all. So we have to learn to keep our momentum up, keep our speed up, and but just because there's nothing to lean against. Every now and then we can slow down and run around the bottom, catch a little traction ring, but normally our dirt, it's so wet that it's almost slimy when it is wet. So the middle of the racetrack is the best part. So that's how we've learned to race. And, we've tried to adapt, running around the cushion or, catching the brown on the bottom, running around the hub. But I'm not very good at either one of them. I'm better at running the cushion than I am trying to run around the hub. But it's just the way I was brought up, the way I learned, and just to apply that. And it does help, and it comes with age too. When I was younger and 15 and 16, I was looking for a cushion to get on, but I've learned
that's how to fixing your car, didn't you?
Exactly. You don't have to have a great handling car to run around the cushion, but you have to know how to adjust your car to run the cushion or run around the bottom or run in the middle. So you can't have a perfect car in all 3 scenarios. So we just try to set up for the long distance and try to keep the panels on it straight, because we all know how aero dependent these cars are now. And once you knock that spoiler off at some of the places, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah. So I just want to throw you, some people say that I have rose colored glasses. That I've heard lately, Kenny, you're too nice. But another compliment I want to throw you, and it's on one of my notes here. Scott Bloomquist, Billy Moyer, and you have always ran through the middle of the racetrack. It's because when the tracks get dry, that's where the money's at. So good on you, Jonathan, because, you know, if you're going to run a 100-lap race, it's hard to run it on the wall. Eventually, it's going to bust your ass and knock that spoiler off. So I think you got it going on there, and I admire that. Okay, so now it's showtime. This one is all the good stuff. And this is what all the dirt racers have chosen to listen to the Kenny conversation with Jonathan Davenport. So we don't have to belabor the point, but let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 controversial questions. Not controversial, just fun.
All right.
Okay. What is your opinion on the state? Now I've got other things in here, so you don't got to. I'm just talking about your opinion on the state of dirt late models. You know, the form of the car, the tracks you go to. What is your opinion on the state of dirt late models right now in America?
I think it's really good. Its trajectory is definitely going straight up. The only thing holding us back right now is facilities, I believe. There's a few facilities that are really nice, but for the most part of them, the ones we go, the bathrooms are terrible. The concession stands are terrible. You know, the pits, the grandstands are falling in, but people are working on it. They're getting more money generated into a sport, into the promoters are putting back in the track. So I think our quality as far as show is really good right now. Obviously, the streaming has brought in more viewers. And with, like you said before, Kyle Larson going back and forth from NASCAR over back to the dirt has brought us more fans also.
Yeah, I want to add there that, you know, I tell people this. I say, look, we love dirt racing. It doesn't mean you have to dumb yourself down. You know, you've won $1 million. I mean, you know, us dirt racers, we shave, we get in the shower. You don't have to dumb yourself down. We can fix these racetracks up to where potential people might want to come, because my wife, she's an asphalt girl, but she's like, I am not going to those nasty ass porta potties.
That's right.
You walk in there and it's just a disaster, you know, and you want to bring a sponsor and you're like, do you have anywhere that normal people can go? So I want to let you know that I agree with that. Me and you, everybody else, nobody's better than anybody, but you're right. I think some people dumb themselves down. And I think, listen, my brother Rusty taught me, paint don't cost anything. Brooms, you know, clean your racetrack up and make it safer. These guardrails are dangerous. Just wanted to add that on there. Okay. So, big controversy, big story in the garage area. They're getting rid of the sticks at some series. They getting rid of the sticks. So it all happened flow night at Fairbury. You know, we watched Shepard getting ready to blow by Pierce, and Pierce changed lanes. We know Bob Pierce is the best at sticks. It was that night. You know, all of a sudden, instead of being side by side, Bobby does a hell of a job with Bobby. Gets up there, he grabs the lane, and people are like, damn it. So what's your opinion on getting rid of signal sticks?
I think it's totally fine. I've seen a lot of good races ruined by signal sticks, and it's helped me in some cases, and it's hurt me in some cases. You know, I've been the guy in second coming in a different lane, and then, you know, the leader moved up in my lane, and I've also done it, you know, just vice versa. But we got to find a way to police everything as far as Apple Watches or lights in a car. There's a lot of stuff that can go on that, you know, drivers can get signals, two-way radios, or not two-way radios, or two single-way radios, where you can, you know, you got a receiver in one ear and somebody talking to you in the other ear in the stands. So there's always some things going on, but if we can find a way to police all that, make it a level playing field, that's great. I mean, I always thought it looked dumb on our sport, everybody around the track trying to land airplanes anyway. Yeah. So
I never thought about that way. Come on, bring it in.
Exactly. So
by them getting rid of the sticks, the Apple Watches, the things like that. Now, we listen, you and I are not idiots. I build, listen, I build my own race cars, and you have too. So nobody going to tell us anything. They might give us an ideal, but so they get rid of the sticks, but now over here in this ear, they're going to tell you how to change lanes. They're going to, hey, move high, because they can't see my little gloves here. They're allowing gloves, but you can only do like that. My buddy Bob Pierce, I love him to death. His sticks, I think, we're getting to be 6 feet tall. But I love Bob, and I'm going to have him on here. But so the Apple Watches, it wasn't so much about traction control, which they tech the cars. They're talking to the drivers, telling them when to change lanes.
Oh yeah, I mean you can get a text message on your watch and look at it, or if it vibrates or something, you need to change. And there's all kinds of different things. Back in 2012, I used to have my phone in the car with me, and I could text under caution. That's back before anybody even. So I mean we've all done it, but there's got to be a way to tech it all, and it'll definitely make some finishes better than what they have been.
My wife Kim is Catholic, and I'm a Lutheran, so we went to pre-Cana class. Make sure we're compatible. And Father John said, "Young man, what are you going to do for a living?" And I said, "I'm going to be a race car driver." And he says, "Be careful, competition will kill you." So the things that people come up with, it's like, wow.
No doubt.
Competition, right? Yeah, you got, All right, so we got 3 more to go. This droop rule. Now we know, if we go back into this conversation, we know the higher we get the left rear spoiler, and that was created by you and Kevin Rumley. We know the higher we get the spoiler, more downforce on the rear. Now we got a droop rule because we feel like people get an advantage if they go a couple inches higher. What's your opinion on the droop rule?
I see what they're trying to do with it. They just haven't figured out a way to check it that is
properly.
I've seen it several times. Like you can jack the car up, you can check it, you can roll it 5 feet forward, jack it up again, and it'll check 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch different. So they got to be some kind of process, whether it's putting some kind of standard tether, some kind of standard measurement from the bumper to the spoiler for each car before the race or after the race. I don't know what it can be. Obviously, once somebody does that, then, like you said, competition will kill you. We're going to figure out a way to manipulate that where it moves after they tech it or before. So I really don't know. I mean, it's a double-edged sword both ways. So I don't know the best way to fix it. I see what they're trying to do. They're trying to level the playing field. But if they make it where it's ridiculously high, then nobody gets there anyway. And your local guy say, "Oh, hell, I can run my spoiler up 3 inches to be like these guys." Well, then what's the difference? But if everybody's trying to lower their spoiler or have to lower their spoiler, and some of these, like our big teams that we work all the time on this stuff, figure out how to get 2 inches higher, well, then the local guy don't have a chance.
Right. I agree with everything you said. I'll just leave it at that because there's always an old saying, "Okay, smart ass, you figure it out." So I like how he said that because we know it's just not right, but I don't really have a good idea to fix it either. But we know these cars flex. We got under rails, over rails. We know if you run a spool, you go back and the car does this and the tires are popping and you're jacking the rear up and this guy's got more rebound on his right front shock. Or I get it. I'm with you. Okay, let's move on. We're almost done. Not that we're in a hurry. I did Kenny conversation with Tony Stewart and he had such a good time. He goes, "Hey, I'm good. No need to hurry." So, okay. Last year, they come out with the one tire rule. Okay, so you and I know, and sometimes the reason I preface these questions is because people don't know what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So you and I know that if we went here and we went there, we had 30 different tires. And so I like the idea that, okay, if Jonathan Davenport and his team want to run down south, they can come up to the Midwest and they don't have to buy a different brand, a different compound tire. What is your opinion on the new tire rule where we only got like 3 compounds or so?
I think it's excellent. I mean, we can leave and go from Florida to New Mexico, and we can race on the same tires. There's a couple of stipulations in there. I wish they was a little different as far as how each series, they limit you on a 30, or they limit you on on one tire, or on 2 right rears, or on 2 different left rears. As long as they make it and it's that 1, 2, 3, or 4, you should be able to run it anytime. That way, you don't have to worry about, oh crap, I didn't bring these tires because one series wasn't running those this weekend. But all in all, I think it's great. It's better than having, like you said, 30 different compounds in the trailer. We're not running as good this year, so it's easy to blame the tires. Is the reason we're not, but that's just an easy out.
Yeah, I thought you was running good. I guess you're not running up to par, huh?
Yeah, I don't think we are. I feel like we've struggled most of the year, but I feel like the tires have been a little bit different. But I've been talking to Hoosier, and they're telling me they're not. So, like I said, that was just a easy excuse for us. But we'll go back to work and try to figure it out. But as far as all in all, if they're going to make this the tire rule, I just wish they would have took it one step further and actually made the tires so we didn't have to groove and sop them. And that would save, even though that they charge the race teams more for the tires, if they would have fixed them so we didn't have to groove and sop them, we wouldn't have to have an extra tire guy all the time. So that would have offset the cost of us having to pay more for the tires.
I want to call an audible here. That's not on my list. So as you know, I do everything myself because I'm too cheap to hire anybody. And I just run these old mods now. But it takes me all day long, grind a tire, groove it, maybe sometimes sipe it. And then when I watched you guys go the speed weeks, you got your truck and trailer, you got a big old hauler, and then you got another truck and trailer carrying your tires and your wheels. And by the way, you got a kid you're paying 40, 50 grand a year to prepare your tires. Jonathan, are y'all? I mean, I like what you just said. So here's my question. Can our tire makers make a tire ready to bolt on the damn car?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it'd probably help to grind it, but I think they can build a tire that will go in all conditions. I really do.
It wears my ass out. I mean, that's my whole jam is tires, and I do my maintenance and all that. So, my friend, listen, look at you. You've done it all. You really have. And you're only 39. So now I made everybody wait for the most important question. I want you to smile. And this is tongue in cheek. We're having a good time. It's fun in dirt racing. Who's the best, Billy Moyer or Scott Bloomquist?
Scott Bloomquist. Hands down.
I love Billy Moore. I'm going to tell you why I agree with you. Because Bloomquist built his own race cars. Tell me why you think Bloomquist is the best.
He won more of the bigger races consistently.
Wow, just that simple. And here I was trying to make it complicated. Billy Moyer is incredible, great race car driver, but I think the nod does go to Bloomer just because he bends the damn tubing. I don't know if he's got a welder, but I mean, am I right? Did Bloomer build his own race cars?
Oh yeah, he built his own cars a lot. He's very good at knowing all about his car too, and Billy is too. Which I mean, there's advantage and disadvantage and all that. I used to think, I always focused on Eldora. I always thought Scott had an advantage there because he had been there so many times in the same car. Over and over. He had a notebook, as thick as a Bible, for all the notes from Eldora. And like, if you go from Billy, he's been there so many different times and so many different cars, but yet still won. So You know, it's a disadvantage, but yet it is an advantage of being there so many times in the same car. But Scott was really good on building cars. Billy knows a lot about building cars also because he's been in so many different ones. He knows what he likes off of each one of them. So you can go back and forth. We can debate this all day, but I think Scott's just a little bit ahead of Billy.
Yeah, well, I think they're both pretty equal. I really do. I admire them both equally, but I had to ask you that for fun because, you know, when we get ready to post Kenny Conversation, it's going to be tune in to see who Jonathan Davenport thinks is the best, you know. But listen, we were at the Dome and you was at the bar, and I came and joined you at the bar, and it was early, and I said something to you about me, and you said, "Oh, Herman, you just doing this for fun now." And I remember you saying that, and you know, you're right. I won 9 NASCAR Xfinity races. I had a wonderful NASCAR career. I still go to my grave wishing that I was Jeff Gordon. And I told Jeff that, and he said, listen, so did everybody else. But I found dirt racing a passion, and I started in the dirt super late models. We won the Prelude to the Dream. We went down to Cleveland. We won against Ronnie Johnson. And I decided to quit racing dirt super late models because it was costing me $5,000 a race. You know, we won the Prelude, and Rayburn gave me a car to use that year, and Petrov put a motor in it. We ran really good. But I looked myself in the mirror and I said, I'm 46 years old. And I just want you to know that I admire you. When you told me that day, you said, Herman, you're not doing this. You're right. I made my money in asphalt, but I admire what you do. You're big time. You're very good at your discipline. And the reason I run dirt racing is this, because AJ Foyt and Mario Andretti, they'd win the Indy 500. Then they'd go 1 hour down the road to Terre Haute, and they put them old open face helmets off, and they'd run Terre Haute and cheat death. So I wanted to be more worldly. You're worldly. You ran asphalt. You run dirt. You're a racer. And so from one racer to another, Jonathan, congratulations. I know you're not done. I get all that. You don't got to throw the disclaimer in there. You're only 39. You know, you're going to go to 60. And thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Kenny Conversation.
I definitely appreciate it, Kenny. Thanks for all that you've done for our sport and for racing in general, all across the board. You've opened a lot of eyes and brought us a lot more fans also. So you're wild and crazy, and we love it.
Well, I think the reason we started Kenny Conversation is because I tell people there's 3 of me, and this is the serious side. And then I got to sell product. I got to run my mouth so I can make money, you know. So that part started coming out, and then a lot of it's just natural. Okay, everybody. Well, listen. Remember, we're in podcast form. You can find us on Spotify and iTunes. And remember, the Kenny Wallace show's over there. And that's the crazy guy. And that's where we talk about the daredevil stuff. Is Wallace going to say that? But right here is what's become really renowned. Kenny Conversation has really opened up a lot of eyes. And we're going to continue to interview the best. Once again, I remind you, we've had Tony Stewart, Mark Martin, Harvick, and now the very best in dirt racing, Jonathan Davenport. So until then, we'll see you next time.